Welcome back, it's Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we are going to be making a glittered beach coaster to match those tumblers. So let's get to it. I have my silicone mold that I purchased from PDB Blanks, my blue lagoon from Mr. Nola's, a gold from our collections, ocean blue dye from Alumilite, and I also have 3 cups full of epoxy. I'm going to take a little bit of my blue lagoon and I'm going to put it into a cup. I'm going to take a little of the gold and put it into a cup, and then I will take my dye and put it into the 3rd cup. Using the same color scheme as I do on my glittered beach tumblers. You can find that tutorial in my channel. As I always say when I use this is a super concentrated dye, so 1 or 2 dots will be just fine. If you do not have the dye, any type of blue alcohol ink will do just fine. As you can see, the glitter is a little bit thick, and that's how you want it, because if it's too thin, then it'll run all over the place when you go to put it into the mold. I like to take the sand part of my coaster and I just like to put it in the corner. I just kind of like the way that looks. But if you want to just add it completely across the bottom, that is totally up to you. There is no right or wrong way. Now, just like with my glittered beach tumblers, I add a dash of this blue lagoon across the bottom, right where the shoreline would be. I just really like the way that looks. I don't like to fill this first layer up too much with the epoxy, just so that way I have enough room to do my design on the inside of the coaster. But you do want to make sure that you have it completely covered and that it is level across. I'm just going to continue to kind of layer everything up to make sure it looks nice. I'm going to take my blue lagoon, put a little bit more in there, and I'm also going to take some of that sand and lay it across. Once I am done doing this, I'm going to let my mold sit overnight and we will be ready to move on to the next step. Now that I have let that fully cure, I am ready to unmold it and move on to designing the center. I am going to be putting a little crushed mirror in with mine today. I also have shark's teeth that I collected on the beach, and I have some abalone shell that I'm going to be putting on it as well. Now I am going to be taking my personal tumbler and I am going to see where I would like that design to end, because we do not want it coming too far up into the coaster, so that way the cup sits flat. Now I am going to take my epoxy and lay that into my mold and just make sure that everything is completely covered. You only want to put that epoxy a little less than halfway up where your rim is at, so that way everything has enough room to sit into the epoxy and you still have that lip available on the side. Now I am going to take my shell and I'm just going to line my shoreline with it. I kind of like to prop it up so it kind of pokes out a little bit of the epoxy. I really like the way that looks, but you can do it any way you'd like. I'm just going to continue to layer these shells up until I get it the way I like, and then I'm going to move on to my crushed mirror and I'm just going to kind of scatter that around the shoreline as well. Now I'm going to place my shark's teeth in with the epoxy. It was kind of hard to pick them up, so I ended up just kind of picking them up with my fingers at one point, but I even bring them up into the water area too. I have that big one that I found. I was really happy when I found that one. I was pretty proud of myself. Now, if you don't have these items on hand, you could always just make a plain coaster with just the waves. That's also very pretty. Now that I am almost done with this, I'm just going to pour just a little extra of epoxy in there because I noticed it just needed just a tad more. So I went ahead and added some. Once I am done doing this, I am going to take another bowl because I only need a tiny amount of epoxy for this. I'm going to use white alcohol ink and a little white acrylic paint, and I'm going to mix that up really well into my bowl. When you go to put these stripes down for the waves, you don't want to put them on too thick, and you don't want to put too many, because if you put too much, then that white will overtake your coaster. So you will see here that I just take just a dab and I just run it across, and I'm just going to do that here and there. I'm even going to come up into that shell a little bit just to kind of give it a little bit more of that water splashing look. The key to applying the heat is you just want to touch it for a second and then stop. Now I'm going to come back through with my white, and I'm just going to touch up some areas and do that one more time. Again, if you notice, I just hit that heat until everything moves and then I stop. I'm going to let this dry for 24 hours. And then after that, if you would like to add a name or a quote, you could do that as well. Just make sure that you put just a little bit more epoxy over the top of that, so that way it's nice and sealed in. As it was drying, I just came back through and I just touched up some places where the shark's teeth kind of floated to the top, just to make sure that they were under that epoxy. And it is all done. I am so excited to share this with you guys. I hope that you have fun making these. I hope you check out my other tutorial on how to make the matching tumbler as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more tutorials I have coming your way, and I will see you guys next time.